Thank you and good afternoon. I'd like to thank the organizers for the opportunity to come here and talk to you today and tell you a little bit about Enzyvant. So over the next few minutes, I'm going to talk to you about our marketed product, which is known as Rethymic. We treat a disease called congenital athymia. I also want to talk to you a little bit about the manufacturing side. Obviously, producing a tissue product like this does not come without its own difficulties. I'll talk about that a bit. And also some unique regulatory strategies which we were able to employ to get to the point we're at today now, where a little over a year ago now, probably a year and 2 days, Rethymic was approved by the FDA for the treatment of congenital athymia. So we're very proud about that and also excited about the progress we've made over the last year in being able to now treat patients in the commercial setting. So our lead asset, Rethymic, is also known as allogeneic processed thymic tissue with AGDC on the back end of it. And it's the first approved treatment for congenital athymia. And this is an ultra-rare condition in which children are basically born without a thymus, which means that they don't have an educated functional immune system. I'll show you a bit of natural history data in a minute. But children with congenital athymia typically will die by the age of 3 or 4, and all they really have as treatment options is supportive care. And about 17 to 24 infants are born within the U.S. each year with this disorder. Luckily, they're pretty much all picked up through the normal SCID screening that's done at the newborn stage, so we're able to find these children very early. And ultimately, our goal would be to be able to treat these children as soon after diagnosis as possible. And again, FDA approval was achieved on the 8th of October of last year, and it was one of the first RMAT designated products to be approved in the US. So in terms of doing this, this is an engineered human thymus product. It's surgically implanted into the quadricep muscle of the child, and it's designated to treat thymic function in these patients. It does not treat SCID, so it should not be used for that. And it also, importantly, does not require donor matching. It was studied across 10 clinical trials, which spanned over 25 years. This product was developed by a physician at Duke University many, many years ago. She widely published on the program, and this was really a labor of love for her, which she pursued for many, many years. And we were fortunate enough to get to know her a few years ago and took the program over and brought it into Enzyvant. So that's why we're here today. And it was also granted multiple US FDA designations, such as RMAT, as I talked about, breakthrough therapy, rare pediatric disease, as well as orphan drug designation. And then we also have the ATMP designation, importantly, in Europe. This is probably the most important slide I'll show you today, and it really shows you the robust data set which led to the approval of this. So we have patients now who have survived with this condition after the treatment out to 25 and a half years. We have almost 800 patient years of data which we can use to look at this. And if you look at the Kaplan-Meier curve here, the top line represents patients who have received Rethymic therapy. The bottom line, which unfortunately is incredibly steep, is the natural history data set, where you can see by the age of 3, most of the children have died from this disease in this data set. But on the Rethymic treatment side, after 1 year of therapy, 77% of patients have survived at that point. And after survival to 1 year, the survival rate is actually 94% once you get past the 1 year. Immune reconstitution, which is what's really driving the effect of this treatment, takes about 6 to 9 months for the immune system to be fully functional and start protecting that child. So while these children before the Rethymic treatment are kept under strict isolation, incredibly protective in terms of infection control, preventing these infections, they have to then go back and continue that after they receive Rethymic until their immune system is fully functional again. In terms of adverse events, most of the adverse events which have been reported after therapy are shown on the left-hand side. And importantly, of the 105 patients in the safety analysis, 29 of these patients died after receiving Rethymic, including 23 of these in the first year of therapy. And the most common causes, obviously, infection is a big one of those, which can occur in these children if they're not protected. And then of the 6 patients who died after 1 year of treatment, none of these were considered related to the Rethymic therapy. So what's really special about this project is this started as an academic manufacturing process, which at one point was done on a lab bench, and we had to take that and turn that into a fully GMP compliant BLA approvable process, which is not it's no minor feat to be able to do that. We work with an academic manufacturing center, which is GMP compliant, and we work with them very closely to now produce Rethymic. They can produce about 20 lots per year, which is really the rate at which these patients are being identified. So with our current capacity, we're able to treat the new patients coming along, but there are a backlog of patients that have been waiting to be treated for a while. So I'm going to show you in a minute, but we're actually building our own dedicated regenerative medicine manufacturing facility where we're going to be able to double that capacity. So in terms of how you make it, I'll show you a little bit about how the process actually works in the cartoon over on the side of the slide. So the thymus tissue is actually obtained from surgical procedures in infants undergoing cardiac surgery who have consent granted by the parent. And the surgeon typically has to cut out a piece of the thymus to be able to access the heart. Instead of discarding that, we collect that tissue and it goes over to our GMP facility, and then that product is sliced and then it's cultured for between 12 and 21 days. At the end of that process, the product is ready to be used. We have about a 3-hour stability window, so that product quickly gets carried back across the street over to the OR and is implanted in the quadriceps muscle of a waiting child to receive the Rethymic treatment. The mechanism of action, of course, is very complicated. We're basically putting a new thymus gland into the child's leg, but it involves the migration of recipient T-cell progenitors from the bone marrow, which then go to this implanted Rethymic slices, which are in the quad muscle, where they then develop into naive immunocompetent recipient T-cells. So I mentioned this before, but we are building a new regenerative medicine manufacturing facility. This is going to be built in Morrisville, North Carolina, very close to the airport there. It's about a 26,000 square foot facility where we're going to have multiple suites where we'll be able to manufacture Rethymic, but we'll also have additional capacity for other CDMO type activities. So we will be taking on other products in that facility as we expand our own portfolio and also that of our parent company, Sumitomo, who is also big in regenerative medicine in Japan. In terms of getting Rethymic approved, this obviously was a very long road. We had to go into the university. All the data was basically on paper. So this is 25 years of clinical research that was done in large filing cabinets, lab notebooks, etc. And we had to go in and turn that all into a BLA fileable submission, analyze that data, put it all together and with modern tools and be able to do that. And what was important too was having all the designations I talked about before allowed us to have good access to the FDA. They were very interactive with us. Clearly this was a very novel tissue product, so we were learning, they were learning. It was a very, very collaborative process. And most importantly, it's well known that the first time the submission went in, we got a complete response letter because of some CMC issues. And the FDA worked with us very diligently to help us clean those up. We got all of that stuff sorted out, refiled, and importantly, during the time of COVID, when this was under review the second time around, we actually met our PDUFA date when many, many products were being delayed because of the workload at FDA around COVID and some other priorities that they had. So it showed a level of commitment by FDA as well as us to be able to get this through in a very difficult time. And again, very proudly, we got it approved about a year ago. So you can imagine too, commercializing a product like this is a bit unique as well. So we have a one-time treatment that's administered at a single approved treatment center. So commercialization for us looks a little different perhaps. So it's really about education of payers. We have to educate payers all over the country. We don't know where the patients are going to be born. So they could be in Texas this year, there could be one in California and then another state. So we really need to go around, talk to the state Medicaids, talk to private payers, et cetera, and educate them ahead of time. So when a patient does come up, it won't be the first time that they've heard about congenital athymia or Rethymic. And then another big part of this, of course, is supporting the patients. We have a patient hub called Enzyvant Connect, where we can help educate the patients, help tell them about their options in terms of how they can pay for the medication through their health insurance or Medicaid, et cetera. And then we can also help with travel expenses, et cetera, because the patients right now have to be, if they're far away, they have to be flown to Duke to be able to receive the treatment. If they're close, they can be transported another way, but all of that costs a lot of money, and these patients and families have endured so much over the years, they typically don't have the means to be able to do that very easily on their own. So Enzyvant Connect is there to be able to help them and provide that sort of support. Our leadership team, many of us are here. I'm joined by Johanna Rossell, our Chief Commercial Officer, Kevin Healy, our SVP of Regulatory Affairs, Pharmacovigilance and Quality. Kevin's very active on some of the committees here at ARM as well. We're happy to chat after this presentation if you'd like. And then Diane Lifton is our head of legal, obviously a very important position as well. So a bit about us here at the end. So, we're based in Cambridge, Massachusetts. We're actually part of Enzyvant Biopharma, which is a wholly owned subsidiary of Sumitomo. So there's actually 5 different companies that are owned in that. We are one of them. And then what's nice about this is we actually have a family of companies, all 5 of us, so we're able to give support to one another if we need it. If we have a unique skill set in one organization, we can tap into that, and we don't have to go hire that person outside if we just need that for a short period of time. So it makes that super helpful to have the other companies around. And we're also private, which is perhaps a bit unique here today, but what that means is I'm not out spending my time raising money. I'm in there running the company and trying to treat as many patients with Rhythymic as we can to help these children. And then finally, I'll end with this slide. So we're now on track to be able to treat at the rate of 17 to 24 infants a year, which is the rate at which these infants are identified. Enzyvant Connect, as I mentioned, is there. We continue to get feedback from the families who we serve and look for ways to continue to improve that program to give as much help as we can. And then we continue a very strong program to engage with our key stakeholders and educate them about the value of Rhythymic and the utility and how we can help children. And we're always looking for ways to expand that as well. So I thank you for your attention and enjoy the rest of your conference.